The dragons, the White Walkers, and the magic are added flavors in the pie of Game of Thrones. When these are all but removed, we are still left with a compelling treat. Politics and warfare, the brutal realism of human interactions and emotions, this is the major draw of Game of Thrones. Hello, Namaskar, welcome, Swagatam. You are with the Versatile Doctor for our weekly Game of Thrones discussion. And today we will be talking about the 4th episode of this season. Titled The Last of the Starks, we spent most of this episode in Winterfell with the aftermath of the long night. Thankfully, this episode was well lit without any confusion of what we are seeing. The last of the Starks are Sansa Stark and I don't know who else. Arya is...
No one.
Bran is...
And the Three-Eyed Raven.
And Jon Snow.
My real name is Aegon Targaryen.
So when the Starks gather for a family meeting, it becomes a unique situation. But before that, saying goodbye to all the fallen from the Battle of Winterfell is a touching sequence, and what follows is a gradual change of mood. I must mention the Great Hall dinner sequence after the funerals, which carried us viewers on a gradual ride along with the characters in the sequence. It begins as a really somber affair, as is warranted by the high price they had to pay to win against the Night King. Then as the mead, the wine, the ale starts to take hold, the mood shifts. The gravity of the emotions is relieved with conversations, jokes, announcements, drinking games, without it becoming a disgraceful festivity. By the time dinner is done, we are in the mood for all the jokes and light moments this episode treats us to. Interspersed in all the banter and multiple hookups is this message: we have won the Great War, but the last war still looms. So the second half of this satisfactorily paced 73-minute long episode is all about the last war. The war of Cersei and her forces against Daenerys with her armies and Jon Snow with the Northmen. We are treated to the twists of political chess with some unexpected moves from Cersei's side and some really predictable decisions from Daenerys. Cersei started wearing black after she destroyed the Sept of Baelor. From that moment up until now, she wore black. The color black engulfed everything, so much so that they even changed the uniform of Kingsguard to black, with those weird helmets. Now, black is an elegant color. It reflects the extremes to which Cersei was willing to go to achieve her goals. It is also a measure of the overall dark tones of this series. But in Game of Thrones perspective, the Night's Watch uniform is black, the Ironborn and Targaryen sigils have background as black, so coloring everything in black became monotonous. At the brink of the last war, I was glad to see Cersei donning a crimson dress. She still has Lannister roots, so crimson and gold should be her color, not black. In any case, as I said in the beginning, with the dead gone, the series is back where it is best, showing us the emotions and the conflicts of the living. Seeing Bronn interact with Jaime Lannister and Tyrion was enjoyable, as was the dynamic between Jaime Lannister and Brienne of Tarth. At a moment in this episode, it felt like the bulk of the episode is done and we would see the battle only in the next episode. We were proven wrong. Game of Thrones is nothing if not unpredictable. There are two major deaths in the last quarter of this episode. One was sudden and unexpected, marking the first casualty of the upcoming battle. The second had a nice build-up, but was sad nonetheless. So this was the third last episode of Game of Thrones. Usually the penultimate episode of a season is where the last battle or the climax of the season, so to speak, takes place. And the last episode is kept for conclusions, tying up loose ends, and setting up the next season. Keeping this trend, the 5th episode next week is expected to have the largest battle of this season, the Battle of King's Landing. But if the last episode, the 6th episode of this season, the series finale, is all about conclusions and tying up loose ends, that would be unfulfilling. The last episode of such a phenomenal series, the likes of which we had never witnessed before, should stick the landing with a phenomenal finale. Game of Thrones has raised the bar of quality television to such heights which may not be crossed in a long time in this genre. So it will be sad if the 6th episode is not a satisfying conclusion to this great saga. But what do you think? When Viserion died, I was certain that the remaining two dragons would represent a balance between ice and fire, Drogon for Daenerys and Rhaegal for Jon Snow. But balance is something Game of Thrones doesn't favor, as you have seen in this episode, or you will see whenever you watch this episode. We have 2 more episodes to go and we are still not certain who will sit the Iron Throne in the last episode. The ingenuity of writing of Game of Thrones has given us such complex characters that many of us are now doubtful on who we want to sit on the Iron Throne. Right from the beginning till season 6, we have been rooting for Daenerys Stormborn to take the Iron Throne to become the Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, even though there was doubt on her prospects. Yet in the 7th season and the current season, when we have seen Daenerys' victory is as certain as can be in Game of Thrones, we are made to doubt her fitness to rule. Her decisions root from her struggles. She loses Viserion, she loses Ser Jorah, she loses some others. Does that make her more or less fit to rule? Especially since we have an alternative now in the form of Jon Snow. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you liked today's edition of our weekly discussion, please do share this video with your friends and subscribe to my channel to stay tuned with me. Until next week, until next episode, this is Dr. Abhinav Atul signing off. It is my pride and privilege to be able to connect with you through this video. Namaskar.